And you know, when I go to travel around the country and around the world, I'm proud to tell people I'm from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And no small part of my pride is that we have the best education institutions in the world here. And also, I think, Massachusetts has shown over and over again that we believe that not only is government good, but government can do good. Government is fundamentally good. We can do better than this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Valerie Nelson.
Thank you very much. I've been sitting up there as a former city councilor, a parent, and someone who did speak in favor of the charter school at that hearing in December. And trying to weigh the difficulties that this community is dealing with and come down as far as process, I think what I feel I need is a very detailed description of the reasons why the board and the commissioner approved this. I'd like to be assured that this application definitely has merit and that those votes have a strong foundation. And to me, after listening to everything, that is the most important thing about the process going forward. I would appreciate a description and why this endorsement was given as really the most important part of the process. I regret the confluence of a bunch of things that happened. People couldn't make it. Votes were taken quickly or whatever. Again, what most matters to me is that there's a firm foundation for this. I had a child who went to an art school. I had to pay for that for 14 years. All along, I would have hoped that such a charter school had been available to me. All kinds of evidence now is that arts-based training is tremendously, in brain research even, showing great advantages to other forms of learning. This is something that's really important. I'm also a student of innovation in this American system. I don't really work in education, but it's a profound question as to how America is going to introduce innovation into our system. We're a struggling country now with lack of resources and all kinds of bureaucracies and institutions that are stuck in old ways of doing things. It is desperately important that we seek out and find the mechanisms for innovation. And in that regard, I do believe in the process that this is not a democratic vote situation. This is not for the people of Gloucester to decide whether this innovation has merit. Because if that's the case, then innovation will not come into our institutions, in schools or otherwise, at a fast enough pace and with enough creativity that we become, again, a great country. So I accept that this is not a democratic vote in Gloucester to decide whether this proposal has merit. I accept that there were unfortunate series of people not there and whatever. I do believe in the importance of charter schools, but I personally would like to see a written statement backing why this decision was made because as a taxpayer, former parent and city councilor, I think it's important that we can rely on a substantive defense of what this vote was for, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize Leslie Sellers.
Good evening. The Founding Fathers of the United States felt that it was critical to American values to, in the words of John Adams, find that the government be bound by fixed laws which the people have a right to defend. I'm here tonight to defend that right. I'm a proud arts educator who, along with many others, spoke at the 1211 hearing to counter the charter proponents' false, misleading, and maligning claims that we know to be real practices in our Gloucester public schools. We spoke in good faith that the ideals of liberal democracy embedded in that hearing process would afford us full equality to a fair and public determination by an independent and impartial tribunal. I, indeed our whole community, was shocked, hurt, and angered with the later knowledge that not one of the 3 hearing panel members we spoke before were from the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. That the board knew no one would be in attendance at the hearing and let it happen anyway. That it decided to waive its hearing attendance requirement retrospectively, and that it did not view its presence at the hearing as critical to meeting charter school application criterion. All of the passion and fervor, all of the human sentiment that underscored every opponent speaker's carefully considered words that December night, we are told, was somehow captured in the contents of a cold paper report that may or may not have in actuality been read by the commissioner or any member of the board. I and the entire community have been left to ponder how the board's slim 6-5 majority vote to approve the charter school might have been altered by the presence of board members at the 12/11 public hearing and by their subsequent vigorous discussion of opponents' concerns. The analogy I'm left with is that of a judge, the commissioner, advising a jury, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, that he would vote in favor of the prosecution, the charter proponents, without ensuring that the defense, Gloucester Public Schools, had equal access and opportunity to consideration under the law. By many accounts, the 12/11 public hearing component was not a fair or impartial one. There is a difference between being permitted to speak publicly and truly being heard, or even being given the pretense of being listened to. I stand before you now, a disillusioned Virginia, asking if there is a Santa Claus. Is there really equity for all, both proponents and opponents, under the state's charter school laws? If the ideals of liberal democracy built into the written regulations of the state's charter school approval process are so ignored and devalued by the commissioner and some members of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, those at the helm of our state's educational leadership, what lesson is this for all of the state's educators? Are not the ideals of equity under the law and liberal democracy procedures fundamentals of any sound philosophy of education? In their manipulation of the state's charter school laws to suit their own preferences, what example have the commissioner and the board set for the students who are in their charge? I came here tonight to reclaim my faith in public hearing procedures. That restoration is dependent upon the state's estimation of what the ideals of equity and liberal democracy in the charter school approval process are worth. I would like to conclude with a word to Commissioner Chester and Chairwoman Banta. I am truly glad that you are in attendance tonight. It is with all due respect that I convey my grave disappointment that you did not feel the same want or need to come to Gloucester on December 11th. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We have a large number of people left to testify, and the only way we're going to have everybody be heard before we adjourn at 8 is if we stick with the 3 minutes. So I'm going to urge all of you to try to wrap up when you hear the timer, and I'm going to call several people up at once so that we can continue to move through the hearing. Next is Jonathan Pope, and after Jonathan will be Roger Garberg, Martin Del Vecchio, and Leora Ulrich.
Thank you for coming to Gloucester. My name's Jonathan Pope. I live at 16 Marble Street. I'm the co-president of the Gloucester Fishermen's Athletic Association, which raises money to help families meet user fees for athletics in Gloucester. In the last couple of years, we've raised well over $100,000.